Hello, KTI class. I just thought I'd put a disclaimer note before we start the lecture. As I'm outside in the natural elements, I really wanted to give a really natural, authentic feel to our lecture this week. So you will hear me fumbling on my words, or you might see me swerving from a bee. But I really just wanted you to have a pleasurable, positive learning experience as if we were actually in the classroom setting. Because in the classroom setting, we would have some chuckles, we would have a lot of smiles. And I really wanted to emulate some of that natural authenticity even in our online platform. I really hope you enjoy week 2 lecture this week. And as always, if you have any questions regarding the content, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of the other faculty that is teaching this course. Take care and enjoy your lecture. Hello, nursing students, and welcome to week 2 of Knowing Through Inquiry. I'm Crystal Garvey, your lecturer for this week. And this week, we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation of nursing knowledge. Now, let's get started. So, for this week, we're going to define nursing praxis. We're going to describe the 5 elements of the ways of knowing within nursing. We're going to differentiate between knowing in nursing and nursing knowledge, and then critically analyze the purpose of nursing theory within the development of the nursing profession. Not only are we going to talk about the 5 ways of knowing, but we're going to review some of last week's content just to make sure that you have a strong depth and breadth of regarding the understanding of the content. And we're going to explore the evolution of knowing in nursing. Important terms from last week that we spoke about were paradigm, grand theory, philosophy, just to name a few. This is one of the few times I will say make sure you know this, memorize it, understand it. Very important. I'll just quickly give a brief overview of each term just to remind or refresh your memory of what these terms mean. For a paradigm, it's considered to be a worldview, and it's a general consensus usually reached within a community. Grand theory and conceptual model are 2 terms that you will hear used interchangeably based on the characteristics within a model. But there are some differences. For grand theory, the conceptualization of a profession and practice of nursing, and it's broad and able to apply a range within a practice settings. For conceptual model, it's high level, it connects research within existing knowledge, and the ideas tend to be abstract. It's also used to indicate relationships between other concepts. Another term we talked about last week was philosophy. The philosophy is the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered in any or various disciplines. This is comprised of values, beliefs, and assumptions. Remember, philosophy is comprised of 3 components: values, beliefs, and assumptions. Next, we have middle range theory. Now, middle range theory is derived from specific grand theory in nursing. It may reflect the application of theory from other disciplines to nursing, and it may involve testing of specific relationships identified in a grand theory. Then we have practice level theory. Now, practice level theory is derived from a day-to-day experience within nursing, and it's closely aligned with specific work of nursing in a given field. Then we have meta paradigm. Meta paradigm, extremely important because this is the knowledge that is interrelated and is known as a set idea or theories that provide some sort of structure within our nursing practice. Now, each level of development is influenced by the work of other levels. Now, the 4 concepts within our meta paradigm that we spoke about last week were nursing, person, environment, and health. Last week, we also spoke about paradigm or worldview, totality versus simultaneity. Do you remember the car and the cake? Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. Again, this is a need to know. Very important. Hint, hint, wink, wink. When we're talking about totality, totality reflects the worldview that a human are integrated beings with biological, physiological, sociocultural, and partial dimensions. But we're able to adapt. Remember the car? If I said, well, if I take the windshield off the car and you see the car in the parking lot, is it not still a car? Well, that's what this worldview means because we are able to adapt regardless of what lived experiences we have. It is no different than a client that now, because of unforeseen circumstances, now have to endure an amputation. And as a result of that amputation, now they have to adapt because they're missing a limb. Well, with simultaneity, it's very different because we're irreducible. We're all interconnected. And that is the idea of the cake. Now, if we take out an ingredient from our cake recipe, is it still a cake? It might be turning to a bread. It may be a pudding, but it definitely won't be a cake. So this is what we're talking about when we're saying the simultaneity, it's irreducible, and it's viewed as inherently connected to the university, let's just say universe. And I'm going to keep that blooper in there because I think you guys will get a kick out of it. Now let's get to the next slide. Now, a part of this lecture is to do some Q&A. Now, it's quite interesting. There's no one to answer when I'm asking the questions, but I'm still going to ask anyway. I think it'll be up for an entertaining portion of the lecture. But I actually seriously want you to take some thought in some of these questions that I'm going to ask, because this is a part of your journey as you start to shape and form your own belief systems with regards to nursing practice, your understanding, your belief systems, your values. The first question I'm going to want you to reflect on is, what is the primary purpose of nursing theory? What are your thoughts? Some will have some, I don't know what the purpose is. And some will say, well, I think to help me provide better nursing care. And whatever your thought processes are, that is absolutely fine because by the end of the semester, you will have had created some belief systems and some values as it relates to nursing theory and practice. But the purpose of it is to hold together our values, belief systems within the context of various worldviews. It also helps us to guide our thinking, being, and doing within nursing. The next question is, what are the general concepts that a meta paradigm of nursing embraces? Some concepts are nursing, which includes being, knowing, and doing. The person, us being there for our patient or we're involved in the nursing care. The environment, which is comprised of the physical world around us. And then health. Health defined by the client. So it's never necessarily the absence of disease. It doesn't necessarily mean the totality of wellness, but it's defined by who defines health. Now, why are they important? Well, it's important because it's the essence of our nursing care. Nursing is not about just giving medication or treating our client and just taking care of the issues at hand. But nursing theory allows us to embody the practice in a special way that we make it unique and particular and above all special to the clients that we are providing care for. Our next question is, when we use a lens to look at nursing theory, why do we do that? And what is the purpose of looking and analyzing it? Well, you remember last week we had those images with the old lady and the young lady, or the rabbit and the duck? It's lenses, it's perspectives. And the purpose of this is that regardless of the client that you're caring for, it may be angina, it may be gastroenteritis, but whatever it is, even though the pathology is the same, each person and every human being is different. And when we're providing nursing care, we need to have that same approach. Well, what are we trying to prove? All we want to prove is that nursing is unique. All we want to prove is that we as practitioners understand and embody the art of nursing. And then the final question, what does nursing theory do for our profession? Now think about any experiences that you have had as a patient, or any of the experiences you've had as a nursing student, or think about any experiences you've heard from any of our professors when it comes to profession. What it does, it builds and gives us to have a robustness to our profession that really just makes us unique in particular. We're not medicine, we're not dietitians, we're not therapists, well, depending on the day. But what we are nurses. And when we apply nursing theory, what it does is that we are able to provide a unique care that embodies so much more than just treating a person. Now, we're going to continue on with why nursing theory matters. So, as you can see, we have two parts to our slide here, nursing theory and nursing practice. And in the middle, there's a roadmap. Well, nursing theory matters because depending on the patient that you're caring for, a different theory might have to be applied. It might be Roy's adaptive model because here's a client that has to adapt to a new norm, like us adapting to this pandemic and social isolation. Or it might be a client that we need to incorporate some of their cultural belief systems because they're palliative, just like in Leninger's cultural care theory. Or maybe it's Nightingale, where we just need to give the basics to our client: wonderful sun, well, there's not much of any today, some nice, clean, fresh air, got a lot of that. So when we understand that theory, then we can apply it to our practice. So now we're not only just giving medications or doing a treatment for addressing or just doing vital signs for a client, but what we're doing is we're taking these two and crossing them into this intersection. So what are we doing when we take nursing theory and we add nursing practice to it? Well, we get praxis. That's what the term praxis means. It's just taking theory, integrating it into practice, and then we have praxis. A new word to add to the roster of words that you need to know. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Very important. To help better explain nursing praxis, the term is explained through theory practice connections. So it refers to a reciprocal relationship between the theory and practice. Each of them influence each other. Again, I gave some examples in a previous slide. How we care for our client in the environment that we're caring for them for is going to be very different. And as a result, we're going to have to adapt and apply different theoretical knowledges and approaches to our clients. Now we're going to dig a little deeper for you to have a wider view. Oh, and a bee wants to join this lecture as well. Well, let's teach the bee about nursing practice and the three core dimensions. Well, there are three dimensions: being, knowing, and doing. Being is who we are as a person and as a professional. As a person, I'm quite candid. I believe in integrity. I am a person that wears many hats. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, and the list goes on and on and on. But being also is understanding who we are as professionals. I love being a nurse. And as a nurse, I see myself in the lens of being an advocate, being a voice for voiceless, but also caring for somebody in their most vulnerable state and understanding that I'm being welcomed into a sacred place that not many people outside of that healthcare team may ever see. There's some family members that will never see a family member sick. The next one is knowing, and I'm not changing this slide. And knowing is what constitutes the knowledge in nursing and how we do things. Now, the knowledge in nursing is what you're acquiring now. You are here for 4 years, getting all this knowledge, understanding anatomy and physiology, understanding pathology, understanding the different etiologies with regards to disease processes, and understanding how we care for our client. The final part is doing. What constitutes for doing is the actual practice or the element to nursing. That is in your labs, you're doing your critiques, you're actually doing a lot of these very specific skill sets. And how do we go about doing it? We go about doing it in an evidence-based practice way. So everything that you've learned through actual practice from doing an injection up into providing patient care. There's always evidence and a theory supporting what we're doing. Now, the praxis intersection, as you can see, happens in 3 places. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. Being or becoming, which is ontology, knowing, which is epistemology, and then doing, actions with consequences. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the coming slides. Now, picture the following scenario. You're the nurse and you have a patient who can't void. The doctor does an assessment and he decides, or she decides, that a catheter needs to be inserted. I want you to think about theories that we can apply and what would be your approach in doing the Foley catheter for this client. So in this example, with inserting this Foley catheter for your client, there's several places that you're going to draw knowledge from. It's going to be your actual practice when you learned how to insert a Foley catheter, maintaining sterile technique, the principles of asepsis, but then also you're going to have to apply other skill sets with regards to your art of nursing. So that's you being present in that moment, because all of us are different and unique. But then you're also going to have to provide the patient comfort. The patient's going to be extremely vulnerable because you have to put a catheter in. And also you're going to have to be a source of support because this is going to be a very, very, for some people, a traumatic experience. So this is just one example of how praxis comes into play. Now, next question. What is the difference between knowledge and knowing? I went silent for a little bit because sometimes terminology like this can be hard to differentiate. But we're going to talk a little bit about this. They seem quite similar, but when you understand the foundation of nursing knowledge, it's important for us to understand and provide some clarification, especially when we're going to speak about various frameworks specific to the ways of knowing. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is expressed in a way that can be shared with others. So your textbook, for example, imagery, graphs, charts. Additionally, it's also specific to our discipline that we've met the standards to critique. So our College of Nursing standards has a plethora of knowledge that we have to utilize and embed into our practice. Not only College of Nurses, but some of the evidence-based practices with regards to providing basic nursing care, such as doing a bed bath, such as doing an IM, such as giving oral medications. These are just some examples of knowledge. For knowing, it's understanding the internal of the knower, meaning us as the nurse. It's not necessarily a concrete concept like knowledge, but it refers to an intrinsic nature that we have. So, for example, sometimes I've had the experience where a patient is pre-coding, and before the pre-coding happens, I know that this patient is going to crash. And we get all our checks in place to provide immediate emergency nursing care. It's also reflective of a range of experiences that are unique to an individual. So based on my 20 years of nursing experience, my knowing is going to be very different compared to you as a new grad nurse, because my experiences has given me insights, wisdoms, and understanding with regards to providing nursing care for a client. This happens over time, and it's acquired with a personal reflection. So after having a patient that has coded, or I've had a teaching moment in the clinical practice area, we always take the time to reflect. And this is also mandatory for us to do within the College of Nurses. It's a part of our yearly reflections that we have to do, providing how we kept our knowledge current, speak to and reflect on different experiences that we have. And this is why we have you doing discussion questions in this course. We want you to reflect on your learning, reflect on your experiences, have dialogue with regards to what you learned, what is new. That's what knowing is. Do you remember this from DOS? This is the frameworks for the ways of knowing in nursing: empirical, emancipatory, ethical, aesthetic, and personal. Now we're going to bridge this knowledge into our KTI course. So let's talk about it in a little bit more detail. Empirical knowing is the most familiar way of knowing for most people. Why? Because it's quantifiable. It is completely objective. We can arrange it into theories, and it helps us monitor disease and therapeutic responses. Ethical knowing is more moral knowledge. It guides our nursing practice. It informs us from what's right from what's wrong. The Canadian Nursing Association provides an ethical framework that helps guide us with regards to development with this type of knowing. This is also attached in your module this week, and I would strongly encourage you to review it along with some of the College of Nursing standards. It helps us reach the humid subjects and respecting diversity and inclusivity. Now, personal knowing, if that's us creating authentic relationships between us, the nurse, and our clients. This is where the client sees us as a person, and it goes beyond nursing. This is so essential because this is how you're going to develop your therapeutic client relationship. You're going to develop a rapport with your client that they know that they can feel safe with you even in their vulnerable state. It's a form of engagement that we do. We provide empathy to our client, and we're empathetic with regards to understanding their situation. And even though we're not feeling sorry for them, but we have some insights of some of their issues that they're going through. In this moment, a lot of us receive those aha moments. It's these moments that give you that enlightenment and give you a new value or understanding to just being in existence or being alive. Personal knowing, quite profound and very important, especially when it relates to our nursing practice. Aesthetic knowing, I'm going to be completely frank with you, my KTI students. One of my favorite parts to nursing, also with personal. But why this is one of my favorites is because it provides the opportunity to be that creative. This is where we're able to bring out the art in nursing and make something out of nothing, my mom would say. It's giving us that intangible essence of what nursing is really all about. We are able to anticipate outcomes rather than to evaluate and do a selective intervention. We can be expressive, we can be intuitive, we can create other aspects to nursing in difficult situations and find other ways to verbalize it or even demonstrate it. I can't tell you countless times, especially when I had the opportunity in working in mental health or working in a community setting where resources were scarce and I had to be creative with regards to how I was going to support or support our clients in these situations. One of my favorites, and I hope will be one of yours too. For emancipatory learning, this is where knowledge and knowing and the recognition of the inequalities and injustices exist. This is basically the concept of social justice and the importance of the pattern of knowing. It demonstrates a critical thinking and reflection of the social, political, and historical climate that we all have come to learn. It helps us with engagement of political actions and strategies. So you'll see a lot of protests happening, and you'll see a lot of nursing bodies getting involved with some of the protests because they understand this piece quite deeply, that they're integrating their knowledge by their doing and their knowing and being and taking action for what is right. This is very integral to our nursing practice. It is through emancipatory learning that we have come so far in our nursing. This is why we are respected as researchers, understanding that now nursing is not just doing, but it is actually a science. So this is what emancipatory learning is. Now, when you put all of this together, as you can see, emancipatory is at the core of it all because it has to be some personal aspects. We need the aesthetic piece, the creativity. We need the ethical way of knowing. Now, all these pieces together really bring in and embody what emancipatory knowing is. Need to know, hint, hint, wink, wink, very important. Now, as we're almost coming to a close for our lecture today, I want to ask you an important question. Why should we have patterns of knowing in nursing? I think that I gave you some idea. But it's so significant of why we need to have patterns of knowing within nursing. Because again, our profession is so unique. We work in critical care areas, we work in long-term care settings, we work in the community, we work collectively, we work individually. We're always trying to find a way to enhance our nursing practice. And by us having the different patterns of knowing within nursing, what we're doing is really creating an evolution within our practice. Think about how our practice has evolved. It has evolved from when Nightingale said all our clients need is a great shower, a little bit of air, and some nutritional food and good sleep. That is a great recipe to cultivate health. To a place where we are thinking about different caring approaches. We're thinking about culture. We're thinking about adaptation. We're thinking about the future of nursing and how we're able to integrate technology into our practice to provide optimal, positive outcomes for our clients. So, why is it important? Because there's so many facets to our practice. Now let's look ahead to next week. Week 3. Can you believe it already? What are we going to be doing? We're actually going to look at some early nursing theorists such as Nightingale and Peplau. I would like for you to take the time and use it wisely. Review your text, review the content within these chapters, because remember, your quiz is next week. Also, take the time and review our discussion question and remember to post. It is worth grades, and every grade adds up. I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, be safe, stay empowered, stay positive, and above all, be the best nurse that you can be. Take care and bye for now.